Welcome to the Irrawaddy Bertil, and today we would like to discuss about the incoming government led by the NLD-led for democracy, and now the parliament has been approved the Aung Zaw as a president, and they have chosen two vice presidents. So we're going to have for the first time in decades, we're going to have a civilian government. People have a very high expectation, but still, it's still too early to make any judgment, any speculation. But generally, people welcome this new political order in Burma. They wanted this military-led government or regime, or one of the most repressive or corrupt government to go away. In spite of initial flaws and problems that we have heard about in cabinet and the fake diplomats and all that, people still generally welcome these changes. And so I want to hear your assessment and your opinion on this. Let's start open the discussion.
Well, it's only natural that the expectations are very high. This will be the first civilian president in half a century, a government where most of the ministers do not have a military background and so on.
Right.
But expectations are high, but I would say they're unrealistically high, because it will be very hard for this new government to live up to people's expectations.
Right.
Because just look at the 2008 Constitution, which preserves fundamental powers with the military. So we're going to have a very popular civilian government with very limited powers. And we have to wait a year or two, maybe even less than that, to see what they can actually do. Because when the Ministry of Defense is under the military,
And the Border
Affairs, and most importantly, the Home Ministry, which means the Department of General Administration, which is above all the local governments really when it comes to day-to-day affairs out in the regions and in the states. And they also control the police. So what's left for the really elected government is not that much really.
What you are saying is, no matter whoever comes into power, the power lies in the army hands.
Yes.
Army still call the shots. And according to the 2008 constitutions, all the key ministries are still controlled by the military and the forces. And also in the parliament, 25% are reserved by the military MPs. They have absolute veto power.
Definitely, because if you want to change the constitution or even amend it somehow, you need, for most important clauses in the constitution, more than 75% of all the MPs have to vote in favor of a suggested change. That's not even the end of it. After that, according to the constitution, that proposal to change the constitution has to go to a national referendum. A very cumbersome process. So in effect, it is impossible to change the constitution unless the military decides that, okay, now we go ahead and change it. The key is still with the military when it comes to constitutional issues.
Because of the constitution also, Aung Zaw cannot become a president. She's now taking the foreign minister position, which will give her to have a seat in the National Defense Security Council, the most powerful executive council, 11 members council. That decides the national security issues. But she also takes another 3 more portfolios as a ministers. It seems to suggest that she's kind of a super minister. But at the same time, I heard news that there are not enough people or qualified people or who drop out, in fact, at the last minute. And she had to take these portfolio at the last minute. What is the reason?
I'm not quite sure that was the case. Because if you look at the ministries, she has chosen Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Energy, in the Prime Minister's, in the President's office, and Education. These are very important ministries, right. And they will give her. She will become really above the president, as she said.
Or else prime minister.
Yeah, what she said before the election also, that she will be above the president.
Right.
But she is. And if you look at energy, for instance, that will have to do with the relation with China.
Right.
And China has decided to build all these hydroelectric power stations in the country, which are very controversial. And that combined with her foreign ministry portfolio gives her a kind of international profile, which is above the president. And then, of course, she is a minister in the president's office as well. So, but the question is, can she really do all these things at the same time? It's going to be very difficult. And still, she has to deal with the military. And if the military says no, it's no. It doesn't matter what she wants to do.
So what she wants to do is, I think some are saying that because of the cabinet minister list and the fake diploma issues and a lot of unknown people, including the vice president, one is chosen by the military, who is very corrupt, General Min Sui, also very loyal to the former dictator, General Tan Shui. The other one is very totally unknown person, Chin, ethnic Chin. He's going to be a vice president. So a lot of heavyweight are being left out in the coup. So what other to-do lists do you think in 100 days? The honeymoon period may be shorter because of the press is getting aggressive.
Yes.
Even in the international media, getting aggressive on like a driver president, Aung Zaw driver becoming a president. So I think a lot of misleading as well as a lot of more aggressive, I think, critical reporting on the incoming government already. So I think honeymoon period will be quite shorter. Yeah. But so what are the to-do lists for the Aung San Suu Kyi and NLD-led government?
Well, I think first we have to kind of dismiss a lot of this nonsense that this government is, not competent enough compared to whatever, which you read about in the foreign media and so on. But I mean, let's face it, compare this cabinet with its predecessor, with the ministers over before them. Were they any more competent than this new?
No, of course not.
No.
They're absolutely very corrupt people,
yes,
and they serve and run the most oppressive machine.
Yes. And the only experience most of them had was from the military, not from running ministries. So I don't think this government is going to be less competent than the previous one. And also this Western media jumping on this thing that Aung San Suu Kyi's driver.
Right.
But maybe he drives the car. I don't know. I drive a car too. But I mean, I don't want to be called a driver based in Thailand. I mean, I'm a writer, right? And Tincho is definitely much more than a writer.
He's very decent.
Yes, he's a decent person. He's a good choice. And he's certainly, I can understand why people are enthusiastic about it.
When we talk about to-do list, the education, economy, this is where we will see the government's performance. Yeah. Do you think that a lot of investment will be coming in because Aung San Suu Kyi government takes power, or just more aid will be coming in? Or country will become more aid-driven?
More aid, definitely. Yes. Because a lot of foreign governments have pledged to give more aid. Yes. So there is a democratically elected government. But investment, well, I think they will take time because nobody's just going to jump in and say, okay, now Burma must become democratic, let's go and invest. Right. I don't think business people think that way. That's not their mindset. Right. Their mindset is more wait and see. Let's see how this government performs. Then maybe we will move on. But if you talk about the to-do list, yes, you have the economy, which is in the shambles. Education, which definitely has to be, improved. Yes. And then the whole question of the civil war, peace in the country. Right. So those three, if you're talking about a to-do list, I think those three issues should be at least on the top of that list. Yeah,
we were talking about peace because we had very well-known organization established under Thein Sein government, which is called Myanmar Peace Center. MPC, which is led by the outgoing minister U Aung Min and other peacemakers and also other foreign peace experts flocking to Burma and trying to achieve the peace with the several ethnic groups, but also the NCA nationwide ceasefire agreement signed under the President Thein Sein government was kind of half-baked success. And Aung San Suu Kyi, this process will continue, but will be very much different. It will be under review, definitely. MPC will become some sort of NGO, and I don't know. There's a rumor going around Aung San Suu Kyi will lead the MPC. And what is your expectation?
Well, first of all, we have to look at the NPC. What have they actually achieved? I mean, how many years have they been there now? 4, almost 5 years.
Right.
And all they can show for the record is a so-called nationwide ceasefire agreement signed in Naypyidaw in October last year. I mean, 8 groups. But look at those 8 groups.
Right.
5 of them have no armies, and several of them are just exist on paper. It's only 3 groups really: the RCSS, the Shan group, the KNU, the Karen, and the DKBA, the Karen faction. 3 groups, which all 3 of them are based on the Thai border, which were forced into signing this agreement under heavy Thai pressure. There's no doubt about that. So there wasn't a nationwide ceasefire agreement. All the major groups are left out, like the Wa, the Kachin, the Shan in the north, and so on. So there's obviously an entirely new approach to this problem, or this issue, has to be found. And exactly what they will be, I mean, it remains to be seen. I haven't seen any statements from the new government to be how they're going to tackle the whole issue of the ethnic civil war. What Aung San Suu Kyi herself said when after her release from house arrest in 2010, that the ethnic issue, the civil war, is the most important issue that the country has to solve in order to move forward. So one could expect, or one should expect, that the new government would try to tackle this problem in a different way. But the problem is also here that it's become an industry, because this I don't know how many, I lost count of them, foreign peacemakers coming in there with foreign funding, saying we're going to, we experience from Lebanon, we experience from South Africa, we will come here and make peace. But these people understand nothing about the roots of the ethnic conflicts in Burma.
Before we talk and go into that very sexy subject about peace building and all the corruption scandals, I think I want to take you back to the trust building, confidence building, because of if or when the NLD Aung San Suu Kyi governments comes into power in a week or two, then what are the heavyweight, those left out, like Wa, Kachin, all those groups? Do you see that she or the other side will make a real progress, minimum progress, because of Aung San Suu Kyi is different from the previous government?
I think they're willing to listen. They're willing to give her, the new government, a chance, definitely. That's my impression from talking to people from the non-Burma ethnic groups, that, okay, now we have a government, maybe we can deal with this government, but let's wait and see. It's too early to say. But if you look at this new cabinet, I mean, there are not that many non-Burma ministers there, really. Right. And there are no women, apart from Aung San Suu Kyi herself.
No.
So obviously there
That's a kind of a letdown.
Definitely.
Yes.
And I mean, this is one thing many people had expected, that there would be should be more women ministers. And Burma has a long tradition of politically active women, which predates Aung San Suu Kyi. I mean, like her mother, like in the 1950s, Burma had a lot of female MPs. They had female administrators, and the Burmese women played a very important role in society at that time. They came to an end in 1962 when the military took over, because the military, almost by definition, is a male institution, male-dominated institution. But they haven't solved that problem either, and that is an issue which I think, an argument that can actually be used against this new government, an issue they would have to face. Why are they not more, equal, when it comes to ethnicity and gender?
So, what will be the sticking points for the NLD Aung San Suu Kyi to deal with these remaining ethnic groups to come to the table to have a sign? What are the sticking points? What are the biggest argument? They talk about a federal union, a federal army, and DDR, all that. So, but what are the sticking points?
Well, the problem is that the approach so far has been that now we sign an agreement, a ceasefire agreement.
Yes.
And then we talk, and then you will be disarmed and reintegrated in society. But this approach has been tried since 1963. The first peace talks were held in Rangoon. And it's not working. I mean, there's not a civil war in the country because people like to fight. There's a civil war in the country because there are many ethnic groups who would like to see a return to an improved version of the federal system that Burma had before 1962. Unless they start talking about that issue now, they're not going to be able to move forward. And none of these groups is going to agree to be disarmed unless there are serious political concessions have been made by the government.
But not only about the improved version of the federal union, but also I think the resource sharing is one of the biggest issues, I think, especially particularly under the previous regime. It has been plundering of these resources in ethnic regions and never acknowledged. And so that's one of the sticking points. And do they have, like my question is, does the NLD have enough or can comprehend the magnitude of these problems, and do they have information to make a decision or make a more realistic approach to these conflicts and problems?
We can only wait and see, but so far I see no signs of that at all, really. I mean, look at Kachin State, the jade mining business, a multi-billion-dollar business.
Right.
Something that could keep the whole country afloat, really.
Right.
And where is the money going? It's going to China, it's going to foreign interests, it's going to local business people. Yeah,
right.
A number of local businessmen, of course, are connected with army generals. And nothing really ends up in the hands of, to the benefit of the local population up there. They're still dirt poor.
And the country remains poor. Bertil, the last issue I want to ask you is the future of MPC, and also there were a news report that the donor community, including EU and other donors who completely fell in love with the MPC in the past, called them reformists and peacemakers, and probably enjoying the benefit of the bigger pie as well. But they are going to end the funding at the end of March, very soon, and this peace building process will continue. But there were I saw in the reports that these assets, and including the land and building, all these, whether it will be transferred to the a new organization or whether it remain in MPC, and these are also issues discussed in I think among the board donors and the MPC. These embezzlements and the corruption, these deep scandal, that's still unwritten in a lot of international and the media and domestic, international media as well as regional and domestic media. It's about how the money has been spent, and donors are stay quiet. And these donors are the ones from Western countries mostly talk about transparency and accountability. But do they have any idea what's going on?
I don't think they do. I know when this whole the Peace Center was set up, you had the European Union, you had Norway, you had Switzerland, you had the Japanese organizations just pouring money into this thing, millions and millions of dollars and euros.
That's business.
It became a big business, and where did all this money go? I haven't seen any proper accounting of it. And it's probably time now for these donors to sit down and say, wait a minute, let's see, where did all this money go? How has it been used? And how can we avoid something similar in the future? But I can't prove anything because I have not seen any figures,
right,
and the facts and figures. But I think it's high time that the MPC should be investigated for corruption.
You think MPC should be investigated?
Definitely.
On what ground?
Well, to see where the money is gone.
Right.
And how the money has been used, and who has been doing what in the MPC. I mean, how many of them actually done anything. So you should look into where the money's gone, and also what have they achieved.
Right. Thank you so much, Bertil.
Thank you.
you.